Hey, Conor here, Neversink Farm, and I want to talk about Paperpot transplanting. If you know my farm, I'm all about trying to raise production in a small space, right? So the farm's less than 1.5 acres, 1.3 now, and I'm trying to produce as much as I can in a small space quickly so that I can increase profits. Because you don't want to just have 3 acres, 4 acres, but not using it to its potential. And one of the things that takes a really, really long time is planting. Planting is just an incredibly long if you're doing it manually. So that's what the transplanter does, is it transplants incredibly fast. You can see I just did 4 rows on a bed of lettuce heads. This is Salanova done with 4-inch paper pots, but seeded every other one, so they're 8 inches apart. We're going to get 250 lettuce heads in one 50-foot bed, which is pretty incredible. And I planted it in, just a few minutes while walking, right? Not bent over and planting it, but just while walking. And it's just such a great tool. And I've been doing paper pot transplanting for over a decade now at Neversink. And I use it for lettuce, for a lot of herbs work really well with it, like dill and cilantro. Early season, if you want to get lettuce mix or arugula or spinach in the ground. Late season, when you need to get spinach before the winter, but you don't want to take out your summer crop early, it just makes things so much easier because you're actually bringing things to maturity and they're getting established quicker, so you don't have to seed, and you're just reducing an incredible amount of time. And it's a very, very simple system. They're paper pots, which are either 2 inches, 4 inches, or 6 inches apart in a row. All of them are the same in the layout of how many transplants, so the seeding becomes very easy. Your seeder is pretty standard because it's got the same number of holes. And you're just going to choose the in-row spacing and how many rows on a bed. You're just pulling a transplanter, which is just going to feed out the pots. And all you really need to do is set your depth. You can change out wheels so that you can get more narrow. You can change out fingers, depending on your soil type. But essentially, it's just digging a trench, laying the paper pots inside that trench, closing it, and making sure that everything gets buried. And all you're going to do is adjust the height so that if things are getting too buried, you're just going to raise the plow. And if things aren't getting buried enough, then you're just going to lower the plow. And that's really it. It doesn't matter what type of soil you have. You want to make sure that it's a bed that you're growing in. It has been worked. Works perfectly in no-till. And by worked, I mean that it's been growing crops. As long as it's been growing crops and it has air in it and has compost and organic matter, it's going to work perfectly with a transplanter. You're going to be able to dig that trench and get things into the bed. I recommend it for any farmer who is selling crops because your biggest expense is always going to be labor. And it's always the most time consuming is labor. And this is certainly the way to cut down labor on your farm, hands down, using this tool.